who noticed that there were marks on my hand from the handcuffs. And the only other thing I'm going to say about that there is when he keeps mentioning how fit you are. You're so fit. So when he asked me my date of birth, I told him, and he said, oh, you're 60. And I said, no, I'm 61. But the next thing that really put me off is when he asks, oh, do you have a British passport? And I says to him, that's for me to know and you to find out. So after all these procedures was done now, I might have reminded about the toilet. I cannot go to the toilet until I'm assigned a cell. So I was stood out there waiting for whatever they do their thingy. So that was when Holly Sweeney asked me, how are you feeling? And I says to her, like punching somebody. But I don't do physical. I said, I write. And as a matter of fact, I will be writing all about this and you will all be starring in your own show. Yeah? So eventually, now, I'm there from my lead now, you know. Out in the van for ages, asking for the toilet. I still can't use the toilet until I was assigned a cell. So I was assigned the cell. Now that's when I use the toilet. There was no toilet roll. Yeah? And after everything, I didn't cry, nothing. It was when I was sat in the cell by myself now. That's when the tears came. And the person who came to get me to do the fingerprinting and whatever, black man, tall, slim black man. And he says to me, don't cry. Everything will be all right. And when he took me there to do the fingerprinting, he said, follow me, and we were there. So I wasn't just going to do anything he asked me without asking a question. And he said he likes how I'm asking questions. And he explained to me. And he says to me, it's best you cooperate. Because if you don't cooperate, they're going to get you to do it by force. And I think to reassure me, he says to me, let me tell you something. You see where you're sitting there now? I was once sat there. It's not as bad as it seemed. Yeah? And I guess God placed that young man in that to do that for me, to reassure me, to let me understand that, yes, things happen to people. So that's why I'm doing this reflection, because if these police officers who come into my house and leave me exposed, my husband and I, to whatever, yeah, keep Southwark safe, yeah, if they think they're going to come into my house and do what they've done, yeah, this is why I keep this for Tess, from Tess. My husband was stood here that day with Tess when he says to me with tears in his eyes, Mervelee, you need to get support for Tess. And what I see happen to Tess, social services didn't do anything until Tess died in her house. Yeah? And that's when police is going to come to want to ask questions. Where were the social services and the police when Tess was needing help? When my husband was stood at this window. Yeah? And when the police came to section me under a false malicious report, this is the window my husband was stood when they wanted to take me away by force. And until I showed them the medical report that I had taken to show to MP Neil Coyle when I visited his surgery, because he had used his mother mental health issues to get support, and yet they're not prepared. So that's why I'm taking up this battle. The young children with special educational needs. Yeah? Why was this? Yeah? This is about a building that has been given priority over me. Because you couldn't work out some ways for me to go get my flu jab. A building was a victim, it's more priority, so you have to do that. Yeah? These are things that's been reported. Workplace bullying cost Britain 18 million. Yeah? And all these things. Yeah, that's my diagnosis for chronic anxiety. Yeah, certificate of naturalization. Yeah, what is that? Isn't that discrimination? Unconscious and conscious biases? Yeah, this was when I was turned down for the role of lead early years practitioner, which resulted in another breakdown, and that's when I decided, or a meltdown. That's when I decided, no way, I can't do this anymore. Yeah, this was when I was advised by my tutors at Lambe College. Mervelee, you could use your assignments for your first book, the way you structured them. Yeah? This is me on Sky News, 2011. This is a book I wrote about inclusion as a result of David Cameron's intervention. And I was put in touch with the Department for Work and for Education because I wrote an open letter. 1 to Theresa May later. This is where I was advised to do volunteering so I could train as a teacher for 16-year-old to adult. Yeah? And this is the statistic that was used to help make me a victim. 1 in 5 of all suicides are associated with unemployment. This is where I come in now since COVID. 600,000 older people in the UK say they get out of the house once a week or less. Before COVID, I have the Walworth living room where I volunteered with Pembroke House. So if I'm feeling down, out of sorts, I could easily put myself together, go mingle with people. COVID took all of that away from me. Yeah? And to know that I trained with cardboard citizens and what cardboard citizens have done to me also lately. Yeah? I applied for Theatre of the Oppressed and the way I've been treated. So now I have to look back at the way I've been treated from the first time I decided I am not going to accept discrimination. So that, and after the death of my brother, the first nervous breakdown at King's College NHS Foundation Just, to where now London Early Years Foundation. With all the reviews online about abuses, they're still operating out of House of Commons nursery, where I was sent to be colonized after I raised concerns about my mental health and what was happening to me. And now Leaf can say they have no data for me. Yeah? And in spite of what was happening to me, I could be page 1 of ITV News, Winrush 70. I've got to still be doing something up until then. My son has faced a similar discrimination as to what I've had. And you expect that I'm just going to accept today's the date. I said my final goodbye to my mother in Jamaica for 4 weeks for my son's wedding. Mom didn't know me, but on the day I was coming back to England, she said, told my son, I didn't come to say goodbye. And I know that would be my final goodbye. And that's why I heard yesterday on the news, 9 police officers charged for breaking COVID rules. Today, 37-year-old police officer died from COVID. Yeah? And these bastards, yeah? These bastards, yeah? These bastards, it's going to do this, yeah? And give them a pat on the back. It didn't happen just once. It happened twice. When the first lot came, they did not wear PPE. When the second lot came, they did not wear PPE. The first lot, I'm sure they didn't put on their body cams. The second lot had their body cams, and that's what they're working with. So they're working with what happened from memory and using my complaints to build a story. Yeah? Yeah? So these are they, and I'll be doing more of this because as my thingy said, This is not the first time. The police has been given chance. Yeah? As an organization, we are fully aware that we police by consent and are victim focused but not victim led. Who is the victim in this? How many people, how many organizations, how many from the legal system has made me the victim? Instead, a building that's in that news is the focus. And I'm going to read this now because this officer must be disciplined. In her use of force notes, PC Wright has stated female was actively resisting arrest and trying to leave the room. She was struggling with officers and tensing up, making her difficult to restrain. Force was used to apply handcuffs to secure her, thus protecting officers and assisting the arrest and preventing disappearance. While struggling with the female, she took hold of the handle of my taser, so I used pain compliance techniques on her fingers to release her grip. Yeah? In what sequence did this come? In what sequence did this come? Female was actively resisting arrest and trying to leave the room. Yeah? She was struggling with officers and tensing up, making her difficult to restrain. Force was used to apply handcuffs to secure her, thus protecting officers and assisting the arrest and preventing disappearance. Yeah? While struggling with the female. So I'm struggling with officers now. But down here I'm struggling with female. She took hold of the handle of my taser. So I used pain compliance techniques on her fingers to release her grip. I was the EYFS coordinator. Senko multi-generational working approach facilitator for LEAF. Anybody reading this? Yeah? I've had to do report writing. Working in partnership. Yeah? With professionals. Anybody reading this can just tell you how depraved the person who has written this, colluding with those are. I leave it here.